The most dangerous minds are never the loud ones. They're the kids who sat in the back, silent, watching everything, remembering everything. Because while the world ignored them, their minds were sharpening into something far more powerful than anyone ever realized. Silence has always been misunderstood. People assume quiet kids are simply shy, passive, or uninterested, but what they never realize is that silence is a training ground. It forces the mind into a state of heightened awareness. When you don't speak much, your brain compensates by absorbing everything around you. Quiet kids grow up watching the smallest details that everyone else filters out. The twitch in someone's eyes when they lie, the shift in tone when someone hides anger, the subtle pause when someone feels insecure. They begin to decode behaviors long before they understand what those behaviors actually mean. And this constant observation doesn't fade, it deepens. While other children fill the room with noise, quiet kids retreat into the background where they can see the world without being seen. Their silence becomes their camouflage. They learn to read the room before entering it. They scan faces before trusting them. They sense intentions long before words are spoken. Over time, their minds become sharp, tuned, and instinctively analytical. They start to notice patterns others never notice, how people manipulate, how they hide their motives, how they reveal their weaknesses through small lapses in behavior. This is the foundation of a mind that grows dangerous, perception sharpened into intuition. And when a child learns to observe rather than participate, their thoughts start to pile up. They don't interrupt. They don't compete for attention. They simply collect information. Countless moments, reactions, and impressions become part of their internal database. This storage becomes a powerful mental library they draw from as they grow older. While others rely on quick judgments, quiet minds rely on accumulated insight. They don't just see what's happening, they understand why it's happening. This deep inner processing turns into an ability that unnerves people later in life. Quiet kids develop a sense of people that feels almost psychic. They can tell when someone is lying before a word is finished. They feel tension before anyone else reacts to it. They know when someone doesn't truly like them, even if the person smiles. They don't need dramatic signs. They pick up on the microscopic ones. And that makes them incredibly difficult to deceive. Most people underestimate them because silence looks like weakness. But silence is simply unused strength. A quiet child is like a mind in stealth mode, awake, aware, and absorbing everything without revealing anything. And the older they get, the more this ability becomes a kind of psychological armor. They walk through life not loudly demanding power, but quietly collecting it through understanding. While others react emotionally, quiet minds respond only after they've analyzed every angle. And that gives them an advantage few people see coming. This level of observation also protects them in ways loud people never experience. Quiet kids learn early who is safe and who is not. They know when someone is pretending. They know who seeks control. They know who hides cruelty behind charm. They know which people drain energy and which people offer it. This awareness becomes second nature. It becomes instinct, and instincts like that only sharpen with age. But the darkest part is this: when someone spends years watching the world, they inevitably learn how to move through it strategically. They learn how people think. They learn what motivates them, what scares them, what exposes them. And because they rarely speak impulsively, every word they do speak carries weight. They strike with precision, never too early, never too late, always at the moment when their silence has given them an edge. Quiet children grow into adults who understand people far better than people understand them. And there is a certain power in not being readable, a certain strength in seeing everything while revealing nothing, a certain danger in being the one who observes long before they act. Because when a mind grows in silence, it grows sharp, and sharp minds cut deep. Quiet kids grow up carrying entire worlds inside their heads. While others talk through their emotions, they swallow theirs. They hold back thoughts that would overwhelm conversations. They don't spill feelings into the open. They store them like secret files, tucked away in the quiet corners of the mind. And over time, those silent, unspoken thoughts begin to evolve. They don't stay raw. They don't stay emotional. They sharpen themselves into structure, into strategy. What begins as repression slowly becomes refinement. Quiet kids replay moments in their heads long after they're over. They analyze them from every angle. They question why someone acted the way they did, why a certain sentence cut deeper than it should have, why they themselves stayed silent when they wanted to speak. This internal replaying becomes a mental habit, and that habit becomes a skill. They start understanding patterns in their own behavior, then patterns in other people, and eventually patterns in the world. Their mind becomes a place where emotions turn into blueprints. Most people never realize how powerful this is because they mistake silence for suppression. But suppression is never the end. Suppression transforms. It changes shape. A quiet kid who never says what they feel learns to think what they feel. They learn to create meaning out of it. And because they don't rush to respond, they don't rush to conclude. They give their thoughts time to deepen, time to darken, time to expand into something far more calculating than a surface-level reaction. And in those long moments of internal reflection, they begin to develop an ability others lack, the ability to see cause and effect with almost eerie clarity. They can trace a behavior back to its motive. They can trace an insult back to its insecurity. They can trace manipulation back to fear. What others dismiss as harmless, quiet minds dissect until the truth shows its bones. This is what makes them dangerous later in life. Their strategies don't come from impulse. They come from years of being silent and forced to think instead of speak. They don't plan like people who grew up expressing everything. They plan like people who grew up containing everything. And containment builds pressure. Pressure builds precision. Precision builds power. This internal world becomes their advantage. While loud personalities reveal themselves through emotion, quiet minds reveal nothing. They never show their first reaction. They show their final decision, and their final decisions are almost always sharper than anyone expects. They've already imagined every scenario. They've already predicted every response. They've already understood the psychology behind every move. People often mistake quiet kids for overthinkers, but overthinking is just the surface. Beneath it lies the ability to create strategies from emotional residue. What hurts them, they study. What confuses them, they analyze. What scares them, they break apart until it loses its power. They don't avoid their inner world. They weaponize it. And what makes them truly unpredictable is that silence teaches them patience. They don't need to act immediately. They don't need to prove anything. They can wait. They can watch. They can prepare. And when they finally move, it's rarely out of emotion. It's out of calculation. A quiet mind doesn't explode. It evolves. And evolved minds are dangerous. Quiet kids learn something early that most people don't realize until much later. No one is coming to save them from the weight inside their own minds. While other children run to friends, parents, or noise for comfort, quiet kids turn inward. They sit with their emotions. They sit with their thoughts. They sit with the loneliness that most people cannot endure. And over time, that solitude becomes more than a habit. It becomes a form of emotional training. They learn to survive without constant reassurance. They learn to depend on their own judgment. They learn to breathe through storms that would drown others. It's strange how isolation, when repeated, becomes strength. Quiet kids grow up understanding that the world doesn't always make space for them. So they learn to create space within themselves. Their inner world becomes a sanctuary, a place untouched by noise, expectations, or the unpredictable behavior of others. While loud personalities build their identity through interaction, quiet ones build theirs through introspection. And introspection sharpens self-awareness in a way experience alone never can. This emotional independence becomes unsettling to others later in life. People expect reactions, need validation, crave attention, and fear abandonment. But quiet minds don't flinch in the same way. They aren't afraid of being alone because they've already faced the silence. They've already made peace with it. And in that peace, they've developed an unusual resilience, one that is calm, steady, and unbreakable. They know how to be alone without being lonely, how to retreat without collapsing, how to endure without seeking applause. And this makes them unpredictable in a world built on emotional dependency. You can't manipulate someone who doesn't fear isolation. You can't control someone who doesn't need your approval. You can't destabilize someone who finds strength in solitude instead of weakness. Their silence becomes a shield. Their detachment becomes a weapon. Their ability to stand alone becomes the very thing that makes people quietly afraid of them. What most people don't understand is that quiet kids don't isolate themselves because they're fragile. They isolate themselves because the noise outside never matched the depth inside. They retreat not to hide, but to preserve, to protect their mind from environments that drain them, to protect their energy from people who misunderstand them, to protect their peace from chaos disguised as connection. And that instinct for self-preservation becomes a lifelong skill, one that gives them an edge others don't possess. This emotional independence also shapes how they love, trust, and connect. They don't form bonds easily, but when they do, they're deep, intentional, and loyal. They don't chase relationships out of fear of being alone. They choose them because something about the connection feels real. They can walk away without hesitation when something feels wrong, because their stability doesn't depend on anyone else's presence. And that ability to detach without destroying themselves is rare. It's powerful. It's dangerous. People who grow up needing others often collapse when alone. Quiet kids don't. They rebuild, they restructure, they transform. They've done it since childhood. They know how to calm their storms from the inside. They know how to heal without witnesses. They know how to rise without noise. And when a person is no longer afraid of losing anyone, they become someone others are afraid to lose. Strong alone, unshakable within, dangerous in silence. Quiet kids grow up learning the art of restraint. While others shout their emotions into the world, they hold theirs back. They don't react to every provocation. They don't rush to explain themselves. They don't feel the need to dominate conversations. Instead, they watch, they wait, they think, and the world mistakes this quietness for timidity, never realizing that what looks like hesitation is actually control. A quiet kid learns early that silence has its own gravity. It pulls information toward it. When you speak less, people reveal more. They fill the space with their own insecurities, their own assumptions, their own truths. Quiet kids learn how much can be discovered simply by staying still. They learn that patience is not passive, it's powerful. And in a world addicted to reaction, that kind of patience becomes a weapon no one sees coming. Because a quiet mind doesn't rush to act. It studies the terrain. It calculates the cost. It predicts the outcome long before the moment arrives. And when it finally does make a move, the move is rarely emotional or impulsive. It's intentional, precise, sharp. They strike not when they feel like it, but when it gives them the greatest advantage. And this kind of timing is something cultivated through years of being underestimated. Quiet kids understand the value of holding back. They know when silence speaks louder than confrontation. They know when distance cuts deeper than arguments. They know when withholding a reaction protects their power. And they learn to act in selective bursts rather than constant noise. When they finally speak up, people listen. When they finally confront something, it's decisive. When they finally break their silence, the impact is twice as powerful because no one saw it coming. What makes them dangerous is not that they act rarely. It's that they act with accuracy. They don't waste words. They don't waste energy. They don't waste emotion on battles that don't matter. Every decision is filtered through analysis, instinct, and experience. They choose their moments with care, and because each moment is chosen, each action hits harder. And there's a darker layer to this. Quiet kids spend years being overlooked, dismissed, or misunderstood. They learn what it feels like when people underestimate their strength. They learn what it feels like when others assume their silence means weakness. They learn what it feels like when their presence is invisible. And all of this becomes fuel, not for revenge, but for clarity. They learn exactly who people are when they think no one is paying attention. They remember how people treated them when they believed the quiet kid wouldn't fight back. And they store these lessons for later. By adulthood, this combination, patience, memory, restraint, observation, creates someone who moves through the world with unsettling precision. Someone who doesn't need to raise their voice to assert authority. Someone who doesn't need to threaten to be taken seriously. Someone who doesn't need to prove themselves because their silence already does. The quiet kid becomes the adult who knows exactly when to walk away, when to hold their ground, when to speak, and when to strike. And because their discipline is internal, it's unshakable. They are not driven by impulses. They are driven by intention. And intention is power. Silent power, sharp power, the kind that cuts clean. In the end, the world never sees them coming. Quiet kids walk through life unnoticed, unheard, underestimated, until the moment they choose not to be. And when they finally step out of their silence, they don't rise loudly, they rise precisely. Because the mind the world ignored becomes the mind the world fears. Silent, focused, unstoppable.